Welcome to today's edition of the Rush 24/7 podcast.
Wait, I just heard something I need to double check. I just heard that Trump is over 300 delegates right now, and I don't have that number. I've got Trump at around 285. 285, okay, so I heard he's not north of 300 yet. He was, in fact, that's actually a pretty important number. There were a lot of people expecting him to be north of 300 after last night, and he's not. Anyway, here we are, folks. You have come to the one place you know you can count on to make sense of all this with honest appraisals of everything that you saw and happened last night. Right here, the Rush Limbaugh program and the Limbaugh Institute for Advanced Conservative Studies. The telephone number, if you want to join us, 800-282-2882. And the email address, lrushbaugh@eibnet.com. All right, Nate Silver's site says that Trump has 332 delegates right now. Cruz at 221. These are nowhere near the numbers that I got earlier this morning. And now I'm confused. Well, anyway, the point will still hold. Because if you take Trump's delegates, let's do what I have here first, 285. I'm going to explain to you why everybody's going to stay in this. And to the consternation of you can't believe how many people. The numbers that I had going into the program today, 285 for Trump, 160 for Cruz, 87 for Rubio, 25 for Kasich, and 8 for Carson. Now, if you look at it a different way, you've got Trump at 285 and the field at 280. And that's why nobody's getting out. And the Tom DeLay was on PMSNBC last night. A lot of establishment types are out there actually pushing the following theory, that as long as these people stay in, that's now the objective, for Rubio to stay in, for Cruz to stay in. You might have heard otherwise, that there's a desire for one of these two to get out and everybody to unify and go head-to-head against Trump. And there are some people that want to do that, but the contra-theory to that, okay, the other list, the Nate Silver list is Trump 332, Cruz 221, and Rubio 115. That would mean that Rubio and Cruz combined have more delegates than Trump has by 4. So either way, you see here that the opposition to Trump is still at or near his total. New York Times reporting, look at this. The New York Times is saying 316 for Trump, 226 for Cruz, and 106 for Rubio. So I've got 3 different delegate counts here, but the point still holds. Because the first leg of the theory is that it's not the states that you win going in. It is the delegates, of course, and the number is 1,237 that any Republican needs to win this thing. And the more delegates Trump does not win, the greater the likelihood he would arrive in Cleveland short of the 1,237. And if that happens, if nobody shows up to the convention with 1,237 in the first vote, those delegates are pledged. But then, after the first vote where nobody gets to win, and you can guarantee that when the horse trading begins, Trump would be in there doing his famous deal making. So once the second vote starts, it's free for all. Anybody can vote for anybody. I mean, there might be a few small number pledged delegates. So the objective here is one of two ways. Either keep everybody in this for as long as the money makes it possible and deny Trump 1,237 delegates. And that theory admits that nobody can beat him. That theory admits that nobody else can get there either. And then throw this open to a second vote. And once that happens, then all bets are off. And you could have not a brokered convention, but you have the horse trading that would go on. The other scenario is that Cruz and Rubio get together and one of them decide that the other can't make it, and that and Kasich, the drive-bys and the establishment really mad at Kasich today because they think if Kasich had gotten out by now that Rubio would have won Virginia. I mean, that's how That's how minute this is. I mean, here's a guy who has not yet, well, he did win a state. He won Minnesota. You know, this is interesting, too. Rubio wins Minnesota, the only state Reagan lost, in a landslide 1984 against Walter F. Mondale. Mondale from Minnesota won his own state. Rubio, said to be a Reaganite, goes to Minnesota, wins where Reagan didn't, and loses everywhere else Reagan won. And it happens to be a caucus state, Minnesota, which is pretty much a left-wing leaning state. The other objective is for one of these two guys to get out and the party to unify against Trump. And then that brings in something that Lindsey Graham said, because you've got two options here. You've got uniting behind Rubio, which right now is what the establishment would prefer to do and what they're trying to do, but it didn't. I don't care how they try to spin this. It was not a good night for Rubio last night. A lot of people on the Rubio side that obviously are trying to spin this as a night where he did better than was thought, but he didn't even reach the 20% threshold in a number of states to even get some delegates there. And they're holding on Virginia. Hey, look at Virginia, look at Virginia. If Kasich hadn't been there, why we would have won Virginia? They point to one state they might have won had Kasich not been in. And this is the guy they're trying to tout as the actual winner, the guy of the rest of the field that is the legitimate choice to take down Trump. And the reason for that is they despise Cruz. They literally hate Cruz. Ted Cruz had a good night last night. Now, if you measure it against expectations, you know, going in, he was going to sweep Super Tuesday. This is before Trump got in and screwed everything up. He's going to sweep Super Tuesday. And last night was the night Ted Cruz was going to effectively have nailed down the nomination before Trump got in and changed the dynamics of everything. And a lot of things became clear to me last night as I listened to the as the candidates spoke, a lot of things came into focus for me last night about what they're doing right, what they're doing wrong, and I will share as much of that as time permits as the program unfolds today. So theory is that you get one of these two guys pull out and they go head-to-head with Trump and try to win this thing before you get to Cleveland. And Lindsey Graham actually said on CBS last night, if Marco doesn't win Florida on the 15th, I don't know how Marco does it. I don't know how Marco goes for it. Ted Cruz, not my favorite by any means, but we may be in a position where we have to rally around Ted Cruz as the only way to stop Donald Trump. And I'm not so sure that would work. For them to say that, they are panicked even more than I thought they were. If they're actually talking about aligning behind Ted Cruz. I thought if the establishment had to make a choice, they would choose Trump, simply because they think Trump has the constituency that they claim that they would like, or they've claimed in recent years they think they need in order to win consistently a broad-based coalition. And they think Trump is malleable. You've heard that word going around. That Trump will negotiate and make deals, and he's not nearly as ideologically locked into things as Cruz is. Therefore, Cruz, intractable, inflexible. We can't work with him. Plus, he's the worst of all worlds, being a legitimate Christian conservative. And for Lindsey Graham to come out and say they might have to coalesce behind Cruz kind of took me by surprise, because I really thought if anything like that happened, they would choose Trump. The other thing, folks, last night Trump did something that he hasn't done before, and rather than do a victory celebration, he did a press conference. The press conference was scheduled for 9 p.m. There was a rumor floating around that the press conference would feature a major blockbuster announcement. And the media started circulating a rumor that the major blockbuster announcement would be the endorsement of Trump by the Florida Governor Rick Scott. I was telling people, well, no, I don't think that's a blockbuster. People disagreed with me. What do you mean? It's the governor of Florida. He's in Florida. Florida's in 2 weeks. Remember what Christ endorsing McCain did? Yeah, I know, but it doesn't seem the same. Anyway, it turned out to not happen. What did happen, Rubio made sure to show up at 9 o'clock, beating Trump to the microphone. I don't know whether that was planned. My guess is that it was. And it is clear to me that Marco Rubio is trying to get under Trump's skin for this debate tomorrow night. It is clear to me. This constant accusation that he's a con man, referring to him as a con man and accusing him of all kinds of stuff, it is designed, I think, to drive Trump crazy. I think he's hoping and angling for a Trump explosion on the debate stage in Detroit tomorrow night. But it seemed over the top to me. It seemed just a little bit beyond what I would call within the realm of reality. It seemed overly contrived and provocative. And look, I don't blame these guys for, when in the midst of disappointing losses, trying to spin it and make it look like there's all kinds of positives here and they're winning. It's all about perception and momentum. And I totally understand it, but there does come a point where you have to know whether or not somebody's grounded in reality at the same. Remember Clint Eastwood's old philosophy, a man's got to know his limitations. And that's in direct conflict with the power of positive thinking and never giving up. But there are positive arguments to make in both sentiments. You have to know your limitations, but you never ever give up either. They seem conflicting and contradictory, but used properly, they're not. Well, then Trump came out when Rubio was finished. The contrast couldn't have been greater. Rubio appears to be in a barn with average, ordinary people. Looks like a barn or a cigar factory down in Miami. Here comes Trump in the ballroom at Mar-a-Lago, which is decorated like the Palace of Versailles. And Trump comes out and does a press conference. Not a victory celebration of any kind. And if I had one person observe to me, I had 15 observe to me. My God, that guy looks more presidential tonight than I've ever seen. He's reasonable sounding. His temperament is perfectly composed. He hasn't insulted anybody. He looks confident and ready to go and so forth. But standing behind his right shoulder was the governor of New Jersey, Chris Christie, who 6 New Jersey newspapers have demanded resign. They claim that Christie has totally abandoned the state of New Jersey, the people of the state of New Jersey, for his own quixotic dreams. He's seeking fame and fortune, knowing full well his elected political career is over. If he's not going to come back and finish out his term and be responsible, fulfilling his duties as governor, then he should just resign and go be Trump's puppy dog or something like that. Now, Governor Christie's not used to being a background person. He's not used to being unnoticed. He's not used to being second fiddle. And however it was planned and however it worked out, he appeared to be a decoration last night, standing behind Trump's right shoulder while Trump is at his podium, coming off as more presidential than he has to date at any time. Maybe a couple other times. But last night, consistently, the most within boundaries. He was reserved. He was substantive. He was contained. It was not all over the place, bouncing off walls and so forth. He basically eliminated a stream of consciousness that usually guide his appearances and stuck to a script of sorts in terms of messaging. But there was poor Christie standing behind him, not knowing what to do. His eyes are darting around like he's waiting for a chandelier to fall on him or something. He's standing behind Trump thinking, my God, is there a sniper out there? Do I need to be on the look? It looked totally uncomfortable. It looked to me like it was the hostage video. But the drive-bys are obsessed with it. The drive-bys are totally obsessed with this today. They can't, I mean, it arguably is one of the biggest stories throughout the drive-by media today. And this is from the same people who lecture all of us about our politics turning unserious and surface, no depth. And here they are focusing on this because they would love to embarrass Christie. They would do anything they could to diminish his reputation, his image, and so forth. And they claim that they've been able to do it here with these shots. I mean, their Twitter and Facebook and Instagram of these various poses that Christie made. I mean, Trump went, 45 minutes? Trump had one of his sons, like Eric, was also on stage, but Eric was wisely out of the camera shot. So it was just Trump and Christie. And the contrast here, mention this, Rubio goes first, and he's just launching into Trump, and Trump is this or that. Have I got this order wrong? Did Trump go first, or was it Rubio that went first last night? Do you recall? Rubio went first? Yeah, okay. Yeah. Rubio, yeah, he was back when interview sessions went, but I mean his appearance now that is, and he was just, laying into Trump like a continuation of the last debate. Con man this, con man here, liar this, liar that. It was just brutal. And Trump shows up and is mild-mannered and presidential and acting like an adult. And he was even conciliatory to Cruz. He praised Cruz. At least Cruz has won something. I know how hard it is to win, Cruz said. I have a lot of respect for Ted Cruz. He's worked very hard. Winning is really hard. Poor Marco hasn't won anything. He laid into Rubio a little bit, but the contrast was striking to me. I even thought that Cruz was, I see the clock. I know. Got to take a break, folks. Back in a sec. Okay, the delegate math, it's confusing. It depends on where you go. Every site has a different number because they're combining actual delegates with estimates because there's still some uncounted votes and other vagaries out there that make it hard to nail it down. But looks like a solid bottom line is to say that Trump is north of 300. Now, the number sticks in my head because I remember so many people talking last night as I was flipping around various networks watching post-election analysis, that if Trump was under 300, it wasn't bad, but it was below expectations. Everything is an expectations game now. It's an expectations game with Rubio in Florida on the 15th. It's an expectations game with Cruz. He didn't fulfill them. He didn't meet them according to what his own expectations were, his own guidance, if you will, was. And Trump was supposed to run the table last night according to polling data, and he didn't in some places. Even read one place today. Somebody thinks it was very smart. I think it was maybe Charlie Hurt at the Washington Times, who has a story, Trump's winning streak baffles GOP losing club for losers. The theory that Trump let Cruz win in Texas. The theory that Trump wanted Cruz to win in Texas, therefore didn't really go in and contest Texas much because he wants the field to remain crowded. But the upshot of all this is that the hope of the establishment is that Trump, and I've heard a number of people say this last night, we're still working it out ourselves here. This is such a convoluted attempt here to unravel. It's an intricately woven web of deceit, this delegate stuff. The objective here is to keep Trump short of 1,237 before everybody gets to Cleveland this summer. That seems to be the objective now among some. Yes, sir, Bob. Here we are, the fastest week in media already at Wednesday, folks. It's great to have you here, Il Rushbo. Half my brain tied behind my back just to make it fair. So here are the three different strategies that are being bandied about on the Republican side, all focused on stopping Trump. Plan A, sit tight, let things go on as they are, and don't try to influence anything. Rubio sinks or swims on his own, Cruz ditto. They hope that Kasich gets out and Carson, non-factors, Get them out as soon as they can. But other than that, sit on everything and wait for Trump to implode. Wait for Trump to collapse. Now, before you Trumpists get all mad at me, I'm just telling you what the establishment strategy is. And I can detect it because I listened to them talk last night. You know who's speaking and where they're coming from. You can put two and two together, get four easily. And when you hear these establishment types say, well, you know, Trump is underperforming. Well, you know, Trump's not nearly as far ahead as everybody thought he would be. Well, you know, with every one of these victories, Trump is not expanding his momentum. Now, very little of that is actually true. But truth is not what any of this is about, just like truth is very rarely about the outcome in court. This is all about perceptions. It's all about momentum. It's all about feelings combined with perceptions and so forth. Because there are still a lot of votes to happen. There's still a lot of states yet to have their primaries yet. And so creating impressions and mindsets. And that's what strategy A is all about. And believe me, there are a lot of people in the establishment that are still in complete denial. They still believe that Trump's not going to be in Cleveland. They still think that something's going to happen. Either he is going to cross a threshold that even his supporters will stick with him on, or that he's going to quit. Something's going to happen, and he's going to realize he's not going to win, he's going to quit, or he's got some other objective that nobody knows, and at some point he's going to have met that objective and then quit. I mean, it's silly, but that's part and parcel of the first part of the three-pronged strategy. Plan B is to clear the field of everybody but Rubio. They do not want to unify behind Cruz. That would be their smartest move, but they will not do that. They actually, Plan B is oriented around getting everybody to drop out and then the party unifying behind a guy who has won one state and did not reach the 20% threshold in a couple of states, meaning he didn't get any delegates in those states last night. That would be Rubio. And Rubio is the desired candidate because that's where the moneyed people want to go. He's closer to the establishment, this whole Gang of Eight business. Cruz is genuinely Trumpsters think Trump owns this outsider business. Cruz is more of an outsider than you know in terms of the way the Republican establishment disdains him, doesn't like him, fears him, hates him. They just, he's so much of what they don't want. They don't want conservatism in the party. They don't want evangelicals prominent in the party. They don't want anybody talking about Judeo-Christian ethics and morality and conservative. They're trying to sweep that out of the party ever since Goldwater. The third prong of the strategy, keep everybody in, so that Trump does not accrue the minimum requirement of 1,237 delegates going into Cleveland. The way that would work is if that happens, if nobody has 1,237 on the first vote, delegates are pledged and pretty much would have to vote the way everybody knows they're going to vote because of the primary results. But after that, then it's wide open. And that point wouldn't be brokered. Brokered means that powerful people in smoke-filled rooms are denying delegates the right to participate in the process. That wouldn't be the case. There would be all kinds of horse trading going on and bickering and arguing, Trump included. And if Trump, let's say he shows up and he's 15 or 20 delegates short or 30, he's going to say, I can find those, I get those away from somebody easily. So, but those are the three strategies that the GOP establishment is relying on now. And I don't know which one they're going to decide on. They may decide different factions in all three. And more will become clear as future primaries. There's another slew of states on Saturday. And then on the 15th of March, we have Florida and Ohio. Those are the biggies. Now, another interesting point about all of this as it relates to delegates, folks. I think after Saturday, I could maybe need to be corrected on this, but at some point very soon, all of the remaining primaries are closed, which means Democrats and independents cannot cross over and vote in the Republican primaries. And that is also a factor in the Republican establishment strategy, because they are realizing or theorizing that Trump is picking up a lot of votes from leftist, progressive Democrats, liberals, and independents. Did so in South Carolina, some other states yesterday and last night. But when you get to the closed primaries, one of the examples given of a closed primary is Oklahoma. Last night was a closed primary, and Trump lost it. So the establishment saying, see, when it's just Republicans voting, we can beat Trump. So they're relying on all kinds of, what would you characterize it? Hopeful analyses to tell themselves that there are ways to stop Trump here. Now, that leads, last night in Trump's press conference, once again, he comes up with Planned Parenthood. He gets a question about Planned Parenthood, and he's not wavering from this. And people are misunderstanding what's happening. I was, in the South Carolina debate, I was taken aback when I saw Trump go on and on about Planned Parenthood. That was the debate where he accused Bush of knowing in advance of 9/11. Knowing that there were no weapons of mass destruction. I mean, all this stuff that left-wingers say, all the radical left-wingers say, Trump's out there saying it. And then I realized what's going on. It's an open primary. Democrats can cross over and vote. But actually, it's even more than that. There's a story, there's two stories here today. One of them is in the Politico. The media's Trump reckoning, everybody was wrong. And this story is a review of a number of bold name, very well-known drive-by media reporters and analysts having to eat crow. Goes back and cites all these different people who said Trump was a 1-month wonder, a 2-week wonder. He's not going to last. He's going to implode. Trump's going to blow it. Trump's this. He's not going to be a factor. This story goes back, talks to many of those people, and asks them what did they do wrong. And they all admit they got it wrong. And the Politico concludes that everybody was wrong. Everybody was not wrong. I did not think that Trump was going to implode. I was one of the first people to tell you that this was going to resonate. Even on June 16th, during that outrageous introductory speech, I warned everybody this was going to resonate with people. Back when everybody was laughing it off, this is a joke. This is. Back then, the establishment was, all right, this is great. This is going to make Jeb look even more presidential. This is going to make Jeb look even better because Trump's looking like a genuine insane lunatic. And I said, nope, that's not, you're misreading this. This is going to resonate. And I said, it's going to resonate because of immigration. Oh, remind me, I don't want to get sidetracked right now. The exit polls do not show immigration as a top 3 issue in many of these states. Remind me to talk about that. The second thing that's going on here, and I also referenced this within the past couple of weeks. Coco, do a site search. Find out the actual date I mentioned this, because I mentioned in passing that certain things that have happened and things that Trump said made me realize he's been planning this for years. This is something Trump has been planning for years. Now, I'll give you a little hint why I forget what it was that was the catalyst that made me realize that, but it forced me to remember some things. And it was probably a conversation about, does Trump really want this? Is he really going to stay in this? Can we trust Trump what he's saying? It was a conversation like that. And it might have been even with a caller, but I made the point, I think he's been thinking about this a lot longer than anybody thinks. I don't think this is a snap decision. The reason I said this, I've played, don't misunderstand me here, but I've played golf with Trump a number of times, and each time I've played, politics, of course, is one of the primary subjects. And I remember on 2 separate occasions, he was really, really curious, wanted to know in detail why I moved to Florida from New York. What was it about New York taxes? And then he admitted, Rush, I have to tell you, I had a lot of people tell me the same thing. They're thinking to leave and they can't handle it anymore. This is just the last 2 or 3 years. And then many in-depth discussions about Obama. It's a bad guy, right? Rush is a bad guy. What kind of guy do you think Obama is? And it was a back and forth. He was acutely interested. This was not just idle chatter during a round of golf. It was pretty focused and intent. Although I didn't attach this kind of meaning to it. There was at no point did I ever think, my God, this guy sounds like he's thinking of running. I just thought it was somebody that was deeply interested and talking about things that you don't normally hear him talk about in public. But now that looking back on everything that's happened, I think 2 or 3 years ago he was planning this. 2 or 3 years ago, plotting and strategizing and learning and formulating thoughts, this, that, and the other. And I think that's what this Planned Parenthood stuff is. All that stuff that happened in South Carolina primary. I think what it means is that Trump already thinks in terms of being the nominee. I think he's been running a national presidential campaign for a while now. In other words, I think he's been focused on Hillary. I don't think his real focus has just been on Cruz or Jeb or Rubio, particularly after the first couple of months when his poll numbers are through the roof and nobody else is getting any traction whatsoever. And his level of confidence. And last night mentioning Planned Parenthood again. And in that answer on Planned Parenthood, he kind of gave something away. He talks about, the so-called conservatives, and then he caught himself. But I'm a conservative. I'm a common sense conservative. So-called conservatives. That means there is wouldn't go so far as call foul taste in his mouth about this. But clearly, he's got some discomfort problems with rock-ribbed, super serious ideological conservatives. Much like the Republican establishment does, by the way. That's what makes him nervous about Cruz. Nobody's that way. Nobody's this earnest and ideological in everything they say or do. It makes us uncomfortable, they say. But his continuing support of Planned Parenthood and his reasons why. They do great health things for women. He acknowledges abortion's no way, we're going to defund them because of that, but he's running a national campaign here, and he's talking about broadening the base. Last night, we're going to unify. Last night, he acknowledged a point that I've been trying to make to everybody here for weeks now, and that is that he has put together a coalition that's way beyond the Republican base. It's way beyond a conservative Republican base. He's got every ethnicity and demographic and every age group and every income bracket in his support. It's exactly what the Republican Party's been telling us they need to do to win, while they tell us conservatives to shut up and go away, that they can't win with us alone. Trump's done it, and he's continuing to, because he's running his national campaign right now. And he fully intends, he's talking, I'm making the party bigger. I'm enlarging the party. I'm making it bigger. I'm growing the party. Exactly what everybody says needs to happen. And you watch, I'm going to unify the party. I know. Back in a sec here, folks. Don't go away. Now, wait. Before everybody goes and blows a gasket out there, I am going to be talking about the Cruz victory in Texas and the Cruz victory in Oklahoma. There's 3 hours here, so don't jump to any conclusions. Let me tell you about this closed primary bid. The next 4 GOP primaries, there are 4 of them on Saturday, March the 5th. I think it's 4. Anyway, these 4 are closed. Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, and Maine. And remember the establishment theory. Oklahoma, closed primary. Cruz wins, Trump loses. Establishment theory is closed primaries, Republicans only, Trump will not win. This is what they're telling themselves. Remember their 3-pronged strategery here that they're scratching their own backs with to try to tell themselves they're still in this, that they haven't lost anything, and that they can still prevent Trump from running away with it. Also, unless something of great magnitude happens, I have agreed to appear again on Fox News Sunday with Chris Wallace. And this time we're not going to tape it. They asked me to tape it at 3:30. I won't be able to tape it at 3:30. I said, as soon as I could tape, it's 5 o'clock. They said, let's just do it live. I said, fine. It's more exciting when it's live. And I said, Chris, don't forget my idea last time. Have me on as your guest, take a couple commercial breaks, and bring me back as the panel to analyze myself. It has never been done on TV before. Have me on as the guest, and you and I analyze what I said. And who knows? I might disagree with myself as I hear myself say something. It's very rare, but he laughed and said, we'll see you Sunday at 9. Also, there's it would be fun. You have to admit that would be fun. There are other things out there, folks, that have little to do with any of this, and I do want to try to get to some of these today. Bin Laden called for Americans to rise up over climate change back in 2010 or 2011 or something. The point is, he sounds just like any Democrat today. Sounds just like any Democrat. Al Gore, Leonardo DiCaprio at the Oscars, just like any Democrat talking about climate change, global warming. New York City, you will no longer get arrested for public boozing or urinating in public in Manhattan anymore. It's called defining deviancy down. It's called blowing up the broken windows scheme, which is an unfortunate thing. This is basically saying, you know what? People want to trash our city. We're not going to stop them. Poverty up. Services diminished in Chicago's black neighborhoods after 7 years of Barack Obama. It's worse than ever for African Americans in his hometown. And there's even more, but we got to take another break here. This delegate stuff, I have spent, while doing this program, I've spent the last 30 minutes going back and forth with people on the delegate count, and they still can't make me understand it. And I still don't know what numbers to give you. New York Times, Nate Silver say one thing, but over here something totally different. Politico's got another. Politico what? Same as the New York Times? Well, I hate the New York Times may have it right. Oh, no. Right, now remember another thing here, folks, as you watch the drive-bys and all this, it is in their interests for you to think this isn't over or isn't close to over. They want to prolong this for ratings and interest for as long as they can. And if that means propping Rubio up when he really doesn't have a chance, they'll do it. If it means propping Cruz up when nobody really wants them to win, they'll do it. If I may be honest, it's why we did Operation Chaos back in 2008. Back in 2008, the Republican primary was over by this time. McCain had wrapped it up. There was no drama left on the Republican side. But over there, on the Democrat side, Hillary Clinton still had a fleeting chance. And so I, El Rushbo, instituted Operation Chaos. And little did I know, this so discombobulated the Democrats, they made a couple of movies about it. One of them was called The Ides of March with George Clooney in there. What Operation Chaos was, I urged Republicans in states that the Republican primary didn't matter anymore because McCain already wrapped it up, to, if they had to, change registration temporarily and go vote for Hillary. Just to keep her alive, just to keep Obama from winning that thing long before the summer came, just so that we would have, well, it was fun to toy around with them. And it was nice to be able to say that I was able to be bipartisan and do some things that were helpful to Mrs. Clinton in her race with Obama. And it was, according to the critics, Operation Chaos actually made a difference in 2 states. That succeeded in prolonging the Democrat primary. It required superdelegate commitments in June to vanquish Mrs. Clinton. And so the same thing here. The drive-bys do not want this over. Plus, depending on which drive-by you look at, they have an equal distaste for Trump or Cruz or what have you. Now, here's the delegate count. Right now, Trump is at 316. Ted Cruz is at 226. Marco Rubio at 106. Kasich has 25 and Ben Carson 8. Now, here are the different way to look at this. Trump, 316. Cruz and Rubio, 332. The establishment says, see, there are more Republicans voting against Trump than are voting for him. No, we need one of these guys to drop out. They want Cruz to drop out, which is silly. It's the silliest thing. They want Cruz to drop out, thinking that every Cruz vote's going to go to Rubio. That's not going to happen, but that's what they're dreaming. And then if you add Kasich and Carson to this, then you have a total of 365 delegates other than for Trump, and 316 for Trump. Now, it was theorized by some political scientist, I forget his name, that if Trump ended Super Tuesday with a 300-delegate lead, that was all essentially over. And Trump does not have a 300-delegate lead. He has basically a 90-delegate lead over Cruz. And again, the 4 states coming up this weekend are closed. And we'll see if the establishment theory is correct, that when it's only Republicans voting, there's a greater likelihood that Trump will not win them, or maybe not win them as big. But what you see is reality. And the reality here is that Trump is leading by massive numbers in pre-election polls. And he's pretty much performing to the polls. He's underperforming in a couple places, but this looks daunting. But if you allow yourself to get lost in the drive-by coverage, you can actually end up being convinced that thing is whisper close. It's nip and tuck out there. And that Rubio is on such a roll, he's just moments away from winning this thing. I mean, if you watch Fox News last night, if you turn over CNN, depending on the time and who the guests were, you could, and if you didn't know anything had happened, you could have concluded that Rubio had one hell of a night last night. If you didn't know vote totals, if all you heard was analysis, because everybody's got their horse in the race and nobody wants the horse to lose. Everybody wants everybody to think their horse is still in this with a viable, legitimate chance, and nothing's over here. That's why you have to trust your instincts. And, of course, trust me. Now, we've got a lot of people that want to get in on this on the phones today, and we're going to have a lot of a focus on that. But, folks, I need to take a brief departure. You have to hear something. I have 3 sound bites that happened on CNN today before the program started. It's Jeffrey Lord, whom you know as a writer for the American Spectator, a former political director in the Reagan administration. He has joined CNN as a conservative commentator some months ago and is appearing more and more frequently, more and more often on CNN because he's doing a bang-up job over there. He also happens to be a Trumpster for all intents and purposes. He's a solid rock-ribbed conservative, and we interviewed him for the Limbaugh letter. And he says he sees a lot of Reagan in Trump. Just telling you what he says. The purpose of his appearance today, CNN will not let go of Trump not disavowing the KKK or David Duke on Jake Tapper's show last Sunday. The fact that Trump has disavowed Duke and the KKK a gazillion times doesn't count at CNN. And the reason it doesn't count is because he didn't disavow on Sunday with Jake Tapper. And they won't let it go. And Jeffrey Lord's exactly right about this. This is exactly how the drive-bys operate. And you throw race into the mix, and you have a guaranteed kerfuffle that they will not let go because there are so many institutional biases here. And the first institutional bias is that all Republicans are racist pigs who regret the days of slavery ever ended. That's what your average, ordinary media leftist believes today. Well, Jeffrey's on CNN all week telling them, you know, you guys get this all wrong. The KKK was a bunch of Democrats. The KKK was the militarized wing of the Democrat Party. The Klan was all Democrats, segregationists, and CNN can't fathom it. They don't understand it. It doesn't compute. And you combine those two things, the fact that they just, in their world, Trump has not disavowed. He disavowed I counted 15 times last night. He got the question again. But CNN won't let go of it because he didn't disavow on our Sunday show. And what Chris Cuomo says, there's got to be a reason. You know, he was, whatever theory they've got is that Trump doesn't mean all these disavowals elsewhere because he didn't disavow on our show. That's what's real. And the 25 gazillion thousand times he has disavowed, they don't count. Because we don't want to let go of the issue. So, they brought in Jeffrey Lord to go up against Van Jones. I have 3 sound bites of this. This segment went through commercial breaks. It went through 25 minutes, it seemed like. We don't have all of that. We can't play all of that, obviously. But we've cut it up here to give you a bit of a flavor for how it went. I guess this was last night. I thought this was live today. How could this have been? Did they redo this again today? 'Cause this had, what I saw today, they had, what's her face? Allison Camerata. Well, okay. Doesn't matter. I watched it today. Maybe they were replaying this that happened last night. Here's the setup. Talking about the controversy of Trump not disavowing Duke and the Klan being a left-wing Democrat organization. Van Jones starts out, and there are 3 sound bites here.
The Klan is a terrorist organization that has killed
a leftist terrorist organization.
You can put whatever label you want. That's your game to play.
No, that's your game to play.
No, you came on the air and you said, well, this is just like when Reverend Wright was speaking.
Yeah.
Reverend Wright never lynched anybody. Reverend Wright never killed anybody.
Reverend Wright is an anti-Semite.
Reverend Wright never put anybody on a post. And you guys play these word games, and it's wrong to do in America.
It is wrong to understand that these are not leftists. You don't hide and say that's not part of the base of the Democratic Party. They were the military arm, the terrorist arm of the Democratic Party, according to historians. For God's sakes, read your history.
And it continued.
This is a media thing here. Did he make a mistake? Sure, but he has said this many, many times. I've gone back and looked. He's well on record over and over and over again on this.
It's worse than that, sir. That whole thing with those Central Jogger kids, he got the entire city of New York whipped up on this idea that these kids had done something wrong. And then when it turned out they were innocent, we all make mistakes.
Right.
He never apologized to those kids.
Dan, what you're doing here is dividing people. We're all Americans here, Dan. This is what liberals do. You're dividing people by race.
I am not.
This is what liberalism is all about.
The Klan divided people by race.
You have to divide by race.
The Klan killed people by race.
They did it to further the progressive agenda.
And one more.
I have a kid, 7 years old. Watching all this nonsense in your party, he turns around and he says, Dad, you're a liar. He doesn't even know what the word means, but he sees so much vitriol from your party. He brings that into our house. Now we got to have him watch, Nick Jr. He can't even observe civics because of what's going on in your party. Tell Donald Trump he needs, for my children's sake, for the children's sake of America, if he's going to lead this country, he needs to be as passionate about what is happening to people in my community as anybody else.
We have to be passionate about making sure that, as Robert Kennedy used to say, that this country is colorblind. We have to, as President Kennedy used to say.
Stop. Folks, I'm sorry. I set you up for something that this is not. This obviously was from last night. They did it again this morning. I didn't see this last night. This is not noteworthy. Whatever you heard here, this is chump change to what happened today. And it was, I don't know, around 10 o'clock or 10:30, 11. I forget when it was. It was before the program started. And it was focused on the fact. It was focused on Trump. It was focused on the Klan. It was focused on how the Democrats do this. That they get this idea in their heads, and no matter what, they fit every event into their narrative. And in this case, the KKK is a bunch of right-wing terrorists. It doesn't matter where they were formed. It doesn't matter who formed them. It doesn't matter that Robert Byrd was a member. That's years ago, and we're talking about today. And Trump won't disavow them, even though Trump has. And Jeffrey Lord was they were inches away from it, face to face. It was civil. The whole time it was civil. But it was something you never see on CNN, because they don't have anybody on there that could do what Lord did. It was really electric. And it ended up, Van Jones ended up expressing his profound respect for Lord, and Cuomo was saying, look, I think I see what the problem here is. And he nailed the problem from Lord's perspective, but it didn't get anywhere near solving anything. It was just that for the first time ever, I saw the way a narrative regarding race and the race card is used in the liberal media, blown up and thrown right back in their faces successfully. And the people, Van Jones and these other people, had no idea. They had never heard this perspective. It's a foreign language to them that the KKK was a bunch of Democrats. Even though you can give them the names, Lester Maddox, George Wallace, Robert Byrd, all of that doesn't matter. That was then, and today is today, and they've got their narrative that the Republicans and Trump are racist pigs and so forth. And this disavowal of the KKK, Trump still hasn't done it because he didn't do it on their Sunday show. Anyway, let me take a break. When we come back, I'm going to get started with those of you on the phones, as we still have all kinds of things to analyze today, such as, dare I say this, I think I detected last night what is limiting Ted Cruz. You think I should detail? Okay, I'll think about it. In the meantime, a brief, obscene profit timeout. We will be back after this. Don't go away. Hi, how are you? Welcome back. Rush Limbaugh behind the golden EIB microphone. By the way, big announcement moments ago that Mitt Romney is going to have a big announcement tomorrow. And Mitt Romney is going to make a big major speech tomorrow. However, we are also told that Mitt Romney is not going to enter the race. Mitt Romney is not going to announce himself as a candidate. But by the way, one of the strategies, the three-pronged strategy that I mentioned to you, just wait it out and hope that Trump doesn't get to 237 or 1,237. There's another part of that strategy, and that is Romney. If it looks like that might happen, Romney entered the race at the end, like before the California primary, and go in there and actually having contested as a candidate, and then the party unites and coalesces around Romney. I kid you not. This is an establishment dream. There are some in the Republican Party to whom that is the solution. It boggles the mind. It boggles they're going to send Romney out there to ring the warning bell. These guys are, we're on the danger of losing the Republican Party, Rush. You realize what's happening here? The party going to be blown up. If we don't stop Trump, the party's over. We got it. I watched this. I said, well, you guys are the ones that tell your base that they're not wanted, not needed, or whatever. But of all people to send out this warning, I mean, they make this job tough. To describe what they're doing, you can't avoid sounding mean, unbelieving, whatever. It's really hard. But why don't they send McCain out? Why don't they send Dole out? Why don't they... Christy Todd Whitman. I mean, who else have they got? I'm joking. I'm trying to make a point here. It doesn't matter who they send out. They send anybody out from the establishment. Warning, we're about to lose the party. Everybody's going to shout, no, you are losing the party, and you may have already lost it. Don't blame us. Anyway, to the phones we go. Richmond, Virginia. This James, great to have you first today on the EIB Network. Hi.
Hey, Rush. Thank you for taking the call. I'll get right to the point. What I listened to all last night and most of the morning here now on the radio is number 2 and number 3. Everybody's talking about who came in second and amazingly who came in third. But I think there's an amazing story to tell about Trump, what he's done. He's never run for office before. He's never held office. He's spent less than any of the top 3. He's fought against the media. He's fought against the establishment. He's fought against the other candidates. He's on top. He's won 11 states, and no one is telling that story.
Oh, yeah, they are. Trump is.
No one in the media, excuse me.
Oh, well, you're right. I get your point, but it's because what I told you moments ago. You're taking it. You're a Trumpist, obviously, and you're taking it personally. They're slighting your guy. You ought to be in the Cruz camp if you want to talk about being slighted. I mean, Cruz can't even get a dime's worth of respect in TV last night. It's like he's not even there. Yeah, it's either we got to stop Trump, and the way we do that, we got to coalesce around Rubio. Cruz is considered to be, a little thorn here that we have to dispatch. Cruz is the only guy that's beaten Trump. Cruz is the only guy that has a legitimate chance to, but they don't want any part of that. But they're not going to tell the story you just told because that makes it look like it's over. And they don't want this to be over. There are advertising rates being set on this going into the summer. They can't have this thing over in March like it was in 2008. Don in San Antonio, you're next. Hello, sir.
Maharashi, how in the world we doing?
I'm doing just fine, sir. Thank you very much. How about you?
Sir, it is time for you to stop with the humility and stop with just not taking all of this as if you have nothing to do with all this. I think you got everything to do with this, Rush. And let me just say this. This is the reason why. Operation Chaos was implemented in 2008, I believe.
It was. You're right.
And, sir, I truly believe the Democrats have taken a page out of your playbook and put it in the Republican Party. And they are trying to set up to whereas Trump will be the nominee so that Hillary can meet Trump, and he will have an easier time of whitewashing Trump than the other candidates.
Don, can you hang on for just a couple of more minutes? I have another obscene profit timeout I've got to take.
Of course, sir. Anytime you make money, I will hold on.
Well, I appreciate that. That's a man of superior understanding and awareness. And we go back to Don in San Antonio, who thinks that I am not bragging enough about the role that I am playing in all this, that my humility is so thick that you can see right through it. And what do you think the Democrats have stolen Operation Chaos and are using it on us, and we don't know. We're unsuspecting of this.
Yes, sir. I surely do.
Well, explain to me, Don, how is it that, and by the way, a story to tell you about this after you finish, but how is it that the Democrats have been able to essentially put Trump in our race and then put him at the top of our race and make it look like Trump's going to win this thing if the objective is really to elect Hillary? How could they have possibly orchestrated all that, and when did they do it?
Well, I think they did it. Two things that you did. It was interesting that you came on at the top of the broadcast and you said how when you were playing golf with Trump was asking you all of these questions concerning about potentially all of these things that are going on in our nation.
He just wanted to know what I thought about things.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. When it showed initially his point of view on all of those things were totally opposite of what the Republican Party stands for. They were. Talking about Planned Parenthood, he was all for it.
Yeah, but he didn't ask me about Planned Parenthood.
Oh, okay. He didn't ask about that.
No, he asked me why I left New York. It was a tax question.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Because he's now beginning to see what liberal politics were beginning to put into his own pocketbook. It was beginning to affect him. So, yes, he wanted to try to find these things out, and he actually was seeing how Republican ideals, especially when it comes to less government, less taxes, giving the people more of what they already own, is more beneficial than anybody else.
But the things that he's talking about tax-wise are not in any way similar to Democrat policy beliefs on taxes.
No, it's not, but that was the thing that he actually was using. He has actually even said that he would like to raise taxes on people of his stature more so than anything else. To me, Trump is just a Democrat, and that's the reason why it also explains, because I am a black American here in San Antonio, Texas, it explains to me why a lot of minorities are also voting for Trump. To me, his policy as to how he actually was no less than, as you would say, not a conservative, a Dixiecrat.
Yeah, but Don, hang on just a second here.
Mm-hmm.
Because Tavis Smiley,
yes, sir,
has come out today or last night and said you all ought not be surprised if you see a lot of the black vote signing up with Trump.
Yes, sir.
But Don, I have to tell you that to me would make total sense. The Democrat Party has failed the African American population over and over and over again. The Democrat Party has promised the African American population, we will take care of you. We're going to stop racism. We're going to stop discrimination. We're going to make sure you get equally hired and none of it happens. It's worse now. Chicago, wherever you want to go, after the last 7 years of Obama, it's worse than before Obama took office. But the Democrats have never delivered on any of their promises.
True, but remember, Hillary and Bill was the first black president. You know that, don't you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so don't forget that. And Hillary is a part of that. Now, this is what really got me, though, Rush. The thing that I'm looking at, and this is really why I am looking at Operation Chaos as being a typical part of this. When I asked some of my own black constituents, why in the world we don't have more people getting behind, let's say, Ben Carson? He's a black man that's running, a very successful black man. Why aren't we getting behind him, who happens to be a staunch Christian? Why aren't we getting behind him? The first thing that I hear is, he's just a surgeon. Huh? Sorry. What was Barack? Who was President Obama? Nobody knew anything about President Obama.
It doesn't matter, Don.
That's exactly right.
Here's the thing: the race business in this country has been so corrupted, and by business I don't mean the industry, but the whole subject has been corrupted. The reason, when you ask African Americans why they're going to go for Ben Carson, he's an Uncle Tom. He's a traitor. He's a Republican. This is branding. This is news narratives. 50 years of propaganda that the Republicans and conservatives are things that they aren't, that the Democrats have succeeded in making African Americans believe. And it's not just African Americans. They've made the poor. They have made Jewish people think that Republicans are this focus of evil in the modern world. They have succeeded in doing it. And nothing is a better illustration of it than how they have successfully, the KKK, a Democrat-sponsored organization. NPR just did a story on the KKK. One of the early missions of the KKK was to actually murder Republicans who were not going to vote the way Democrats wanted. I mean, the segregationists, the plantation owners, this was all Democrats. There's a reason that the Republican Party's president, Abe Lincoln, ended slavery. The Democrats didn't end it. But none of that matters, because all that matters is 1964 forward and the Civil Rights Act. And even that wouldn't have happened had it not been for Republican participation. A greater percentage of Republican senators voted for it than Democrats. This is one of the greatest reversals of reality in modern times that I have ever seen. That's why this debate about it today on CNN that happened with Jeffrey Lord and Van Jones was just stunning. Because you can see these young African Americans, they have no clue. The idea of the KKK, in fact, anybody you mention that to at CNN, you're going to stop them dead in their tracks. They have never heard. It's just like the other day when we found out the CEO of Land's End, a young female in her 40s, decided his major marketing push for this season was a portion of sales would go to Gloria Steinem and pro-abortion movements or whatever. And the clientele at Land's End had a conniption, and they wrote back and they said, screw you. They sent catalogs back. We're not buying diddly squat from you. The CEO lives in New York, had no clue. In her world, everybody idolizes Gloria Steinem. In her world, abortion is something everybody wants to do at least once. It's a life achievement thing. In her world, she doesn't know anybody who doesn't think Gloria Steinem is just the end of things. They live in this closeted, cocooned world. And these leftists at CNN, when confronted with the idea that the KKK might have been a Democrat leftist organization, are speechless, don't know what to do with it. They've never heard it. Now, about your Operation Chaos theory, I love having fun with people. You know me, I'm a fun-loving, jocular kind of guy. And at times, I love to do bits. What I used to call satirical parodies that I used to do on the program back in the early days. And I found myself recently in a conversation with some people who were just Don, kind of like you, thinking that this whole thing stinks. That Trump running away with this can't be real. This has to be manufactured. Some conspiracy, because none of this makes sense. Just on the same basis you said, that Trump's not a Republican, that Trump's this. He's never been a politician. How in the hell does this happen? And in this conversation, these people were telling me, this is a sign of how the Republican establishment, they've just lost control of everything. And I said, wait, have you ever stopped to think that maybe the establishment's getting everything they want here? Have you ever stopped to think for a minute that maybe all of this is exactly what the establishment... What do you mean? Well, they want Hillary to be elected, right? Damn right. Okay, so why not come up with a guy who they know is going to be loved and adored by the Republicans, some of them, siphon off a bunch of votes, guaranteed to get Hillary Clinton elected? What if this whole thing is nothing but a giant trick, that the establishment is doing this on purpose, making it look like they've lost control, making it look like they're in panic, making it look like they have no clue how to hold on, and in fact, everything that's happening is because of a grand scheme that they have set in motion. And it stopped them dead in their tracks. And they started thinking, you know what, oh my God, and they thought that I might have a brilliant point here, that I might really be onto something. And I was just making it up for the fun of it, just to illustrate to myself and to them how easy it is when things don't make sense to come up with the wildest, most irrational explanation you can, and people will glom onto it because the simple explanation, the thing that's right in front of them, is so simple, so easy, it can't be that. And the establishment, you tell people, these are the most powerful people in the world. Do you really think they're going to sit here and let something like this happen to them? No, they're behind this. Everything that's happening here is designed to keep the establishment in power while everybody thinks they're losing it. It's the best of both worlds. And I had these people eating out of the palm of my hands on it. Snerdley watched it happen. He said, you ought to try this on there. I said, no, this is to do this, that would be irresponsible. Because if I did this for real without telling you about it the way I'm doing it now, I could start, who knows what kind of panic that I wouldn't want to be anywhere near responsible for. So my point is that what Don's saying here, that this is a Democrat trick or an establishment trick, there will be people who believe it. And I got a little tweet here. You know, the British House of Commons member that took America by storm 3 years ago, Daniel Hannan. Well, he tweeted something out. He says, I know no one cares, but if only for the record, I want everybody to see the latest from the CNN poll. And what he tweeted is Rubio 50, Clinton 47, Clinton 52, Trump 44. And there is, the latest CNN poll does show Rubio as the only one beating Hillary. Now, his point is this: if you want to know why the establishment's trying to circle the wagons and get Rubio, is because they live and die by polls, and they got a poll that says Rubio's the only guy who can beat Hillary. And by the same token, Clinton, in this poll anyway, Clinton beats Trump easier than any other Republican. I don't think you need this poll to convince people the establishment doesn't like Trump. I'm not saying the poll is not a factor here. But I also don't believe the poll. And I know you can selectively choose to accept and believe one part of it and not the other, but I'm selectively choosing to think that poll is a crock. Not a purposeful crock. I just think it's wrong. I don't think any poll taken right now on the presidential race, two-man race, when we do not have the candidates, is worth its weight in the paper it takes to print it. On the cutting edge of societal evolution, Rush Limbaugh, the EIB network. Yeah, I'm sitting here thinking about Chris Christie. This is another one of these things that won't go away. They're making fun of the guy. They're literally destroying the guy. And I'm sure that Christie, when he endorsed Trump, I think he probably thought it was going to be heralded. Great move, courageous move. Here's an establishment guy, former chairman or president, whatever they call it, Republican Governors Association. And instead, he standing behind Trump last night on the stage, not knowing how to do it. He's not a guy that stands on the stage. He commands the stage. He was ordered to stand on the stage behind Trump for a long time. What do you do with your eyes? You dart back and forth. Do you smile? Do you not smile? Do you react Trump, or do you look like a security guard scanning the area for problems? What do you do? There aren't any lessons for this. So the media, everybody's tweeting pictures. Christie, poor Christie, being held hostage in a hostage video or whatever else they're saying. It just reminded me of something. A life lesson, essentially. When you try to elevate yourself by association, it generally doesn't work. When somebody, because of their own achievements or whatever, is basking in a very warm glow of hot light, there's a lot of people that want to stand next to the person so they can be seen in the light. But they really haven't done anything to be there. So it's like all these sycophants that want to hang around the Kardashians, or it's like all these sycophants that want to hang around the celebrity of the moment, or the hot politician. Whenever there's a hot politician, you can make book. You can find these people. These I call these suck-up hangers-on. That's not what Christie was doing. He's actually looking forward to political career. He's term limited in New Jersey. He's finished when this term is over. Effort to become president, a Republican nominee failed. So, hitch your wagon to the guy that's going somewhere. Maybe be attorney general or vice president or what have you. But poor Christie, it just hasn't worked. This elevate yourself by associations with Romney. And then there was the Obama hug. That didn't work out. Then go ahead, Letterman during the Bridgegate thing. And remember how I really felt so bad for him when the Springsteen thing imploded on him. Here's a guy who, like many people in the country, just think Bruce Springsteen is great. They just love Springsteen, the greatest guy, and he's a New Jersey guy, and so you want to be a Jersey guy like Springsteen was. And Christie told everybody when he finally got to talk to Springsteen, he cried. And that Obama had set that up. It was a phone call. Obama did that for him. He was talking about how proud of the day he got to talk to Springsteen. And then, during Bridgegate, what happened? Springsteen goes on Jimmy Fallon and creates new lyrics for some famous Springsteen song making fun of Christie. The poor guy can't catch a break here. And it's like Dawn would say, it's just very sad. It's very sad. Okay, Cookie did some hard, fast work, and we've got a couple of sound bites here from today's example that I was talking, the one I saw today, Van Jones and Jeffrey Lord, on Trump and disavowing the KKK, and Jeffrey telling him at CNN the KKK is a bunch of left-wing Democrats. And a couple sound bites just to share with you what I saw today. We'll be back and get to that in a minute. Meeting and surpassing all audience expectations every day, Rush Limbaugh, America's real anchorman and truth detector and doctor of democracy. And we are here at a one and only Excellence in Broadcasting Network. I am 800-282-2882 if you want to be on the program. Okay, Cookie went back and found the things that I saw today. Apparently, the Van Jones, Jeffrey Lord segment originally happened last night. I didn't see that. I saw 20 minutes of it this morning, and it went from 8:45 to about 9:10. I finally figured out what they went through top of the hour breaks. They delayed the beginning of their 9 o'clock show for this thing to continue. It was hot. And I'm just telling you, there's no way we can play the whole thing here. We've got 2 sound bites, and these will give you a flavor for it. But just again to set it up, Jeffrey Lord is there as a conservative analyst of the news, the quote-unquote Republican strategist. You know, people that have never been involved in a strategy session in their lives are called strategists on cable news networks because they might strategize at Starbucks with their friends. But Jeffrey actually is. He's a political director of the Reagan administration. Writes now at the American Spectator and Newsbusters. And he's a Trumpist. And he was there to answer the charge that Trump continues to avoid disavowing the Klan and the David Duke, which is preposterous. Trump has disavowed for years David Duke and the Klan. He left the Reform Party because they were in it. But he didn't on Jake Tapper's precious CNN Sunday morning show. And so as far as CNN's concerned, he has not disavowed. If he won't disavow on their Sunday show, then he hasn't disavowed. And he brought in Van Jones, a well-known admitted communist from the first Obama administration. And he's now a strategist and a commentator on CNN. And he and Jeffrey went at it with Chris Cuomo and Allison Camerata actually acting as therapists to bring these two together, to get them to listen to each other. So here are 2 sound bites as a flavor for it. Chris Cuomo says, with the benefit of time, Van Jones, does the perspective of don't forget who these guys were, the KKK, and what it means to your party, does it make more sense to you in the analysis of what it means today with Donald Trump?
I don't understand why the right wing is so obsessed with trying to point out that the Ku Klux Klan, 50, 60, 70 years ago was a part of the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party in that time was a racist party, and there were violent elements. That's true, because obviously the Republicans at that time were the party of Lincoln, who ended slavery. But we've had a reversal over this past 50 years. My entire lifetime, I was born in 68, there's been that reversal. So I think for African Americans, when we try and speak about the pain of the lynchings, we try to speak about the fear that we are having around every African American dinner table, kitchen table, about what does Trump mean. People go, well, 50 years ago they were Democrats. To us it feels dismissive.
Right. Well, there hasn't been a reversal. This is the whole point. The reversal is a marketing maneuver. What reversal? The Republicans haven't lynched anybody. That all happened. Slavery, lynchings, those were Democrats that did it. The list of names. Again, Lester Maddox, George Wallace, Strom Thurmond back in those days was a Democrat. J. William Fulbright from Arkansas. He was Bill Clinton's mentor. Ernest Hollings. How about Herman Talmadge, Georgia? I mean, the list of these guys. Robert C. Byrd, nicknamed Sheets, was a Grand Freaking Kleagle, which meant he was a recruiter, and he achieved the exalted Cyclops level of the Ku Klux Klan. Whatever it is, he was one. I always thought of a Cyclops as a one-eyed monster in the Sinbad movies. So I've never understood what a Cyclops is in the Klan. But you notice how easy this, he admits, and this is new. You won't have a Democrat admitting they were Democrats. Klan was Democrats. Racist party, violent elements, that's true. But we've had a reversal over these past. What reversal? What lynchings is he talking about? What is this? When did the Klan join the Republican Party? When did the Klan? There isn't a single Republican that's ever been a member of the Klan. Not like the Democrats can boast. Robert C. Byrd. Anyway, here was Lord's answer. Alison Camerata said, Jeffrey, were you using a diversionary tactic to go back 50, 60, 70 years rather than back 2 days ago to what Donald Trump said, where he did not give any sort of aggressive disavowal with Jake Tapper of the KKK? Why not just focus on today and the race today that we're talking about instead of all this time 50 years ago?
What I was trying to do was give historical context. My point is that race fuels the progressive movement and has always fueled the progressive movement, whether it was slavery, segregation, lynching, the Ku Klux Klan, to today's racial quotas, illegal immigration by skin color, groups like La Raza, the Black Panthers, Black Lives Matter, etc. It's always about let's divide people by race, and then here's the progressive agenda that we want to enact. That's the connection to me, and it's a constant throughout 200 some odd years of history. The Klan being just one of them. And by the way, not long ago when Occupy Wall Street was a big thing going, David Duke was a big supporter of Occupy Wall Street.
Exactly. But this thing ended up with them shouting at each other, back and forth, talking over each other. It was difficult to hear, for me anyway, what they were saying. And Camerata and Cuomo had to go in there and referee it. It ended fine. There were no fisticuffs or any of that. It's just that you never see this perspective, hardly anywhere, but certainly not on CNN. But this reminds me of something. Brian just reminded me of this last night. After the candidates had made their speeches, their victory or whatever other speeches after the elections last night, when they were sitting down and doing interviews with the various networks. I guess this is where I'm going to give my analysis of what candidates, in my mind, are doing that they could do better. And this is risky to do. This is really risky because I run the risk of offending supporters of these people. But at the same time, I can't sit here and just stand mute when, as Rob said from San Antonio, that I may be responsible for all this. So I can't pretend I've got nothing to do with it. In the case of Rubio, it is clear that Rubio had some success in the tactics that he chose to switch to in the last debate. Going after Trump and making fun of him and mocking him and calling him con man, and lines around the state and Trump University and all this. And he won some accolades from establishment types, and he is convinced that it helped him in Virginia. He is convinced that it helped him get votes in other states on Super Tuesday, that he still lost them, but he's convinced that it helped his performance. So in his interviews last night, he doubled down on all of this. Every other word about Trump was con man. And then he joined in on this business of Trump not disavowing the KKK and David Duke. And, Brian mentioned to me, as some other people have mentioned to me as well, that it started to grate on, make them nervous, and create even some sympathy for Trump, because everybody in the world knows he has disavowed, and not just once. Now, this situation, what happened on the CNN show, who knows? Everybody has their theories for what that was about. But you cannot credibly say that Donald Trump supports the KKK. You cannot credibly say that Donald Trump is sympathetic to them or to David Duke. You cannot credibly say that. And so to try to is not going to help you, in my humble estimation. And Rubio kept throwing out last night that Trump will not disavow the KKK, and we can't have anybody in the Republican Party doing this. And I think that's going to backfire, because the one thing that Republican voters, conservative voters all over this country are fed up with is this phony charge of racism that the Democrats make. And if a Republican starts making those same charges about a fellow Republican, it isn't going to work, if you ask me. It's going to backfire. Con man, it's one thing if you want to continue with that strategy, thinking that it's helpful. In other words, turn Trump's tactics around on him. make fun of people, bully people, laugh at them, mock them, and so forth. But this KKK thing and David Duke, there's no question that Trump is disavowed. There's no question Trump wants no part of that and never has. You know, if you're going to accuse somebody of something, there has to be some small grain somewhere of accuracy. It's got to be something that's believable. You can't. The media can do. You can't manufacture a charge out of nothing and have it stick. I know you're shouting, well, Harry Reid did it with Romney. Well, one of the reasons that worked was the way Romney handled that, too. Let's not forget. I mean, the Republican reaction to any of this stuff is basically to ignore it, thinking nobody's going to believe it, and that doesn't work. So I thought that was, for Rubio, a little bit perhaps counterproductive, and I'm very nervous, talk. This is not my job to advise them, and they know their business better than I do. But I would dial that back. I don't think that's... well, that's another... You mean all these allegations that Trump... How the Democrats cataloging this stuff and using it in the general. And even Marco Rubio, a Republican, even Rubio knew that Trump is a con man. Listen what Marco Rubio said about Donald Trump. And they play a soundbite from... Yeah. Oh, nobody's thinking about that right now. Nobody ever does think about that, Snurley. Nobody thinks about the general. That's way down there. You deal with that when you get there. Right now, these guys are all thinking they've got to do what they have to do to win this. And they'll deal with whatever messes are created now later. And the same thing with Hillary and Crazy Bernie. I mean, we're getting our share of sound bites to use against them, too. So it's a two-way street. Now, I mentioned earlier that I think I detected a flaw in the Cruz strategy last night. And I got to be very, very careful about this, folks, because none of this is offered in criticism. I'm not offering this from the standpoint of, these guys don't know what they're doing. What they got to do, that's not the attitude that I bring to this. In all of these things, I'm trying to be genuinely helpful. And what I finally saw, Cruz didn't do anything different last night than he's been doing. It's not that. It's that something clicked for me that hadn't up until now. Because a lot of conservatives are really puzzled why Cruz isn't doing better. He is the ideal conservative candidate. He is the modern incarnation of Ronaldus Magnus. And prior to Trump getting in, there were a lot of people who thought this was really going to be the chance to restake the Reagan claim in the Republican Party and in the country for the express purpose of fixing things and improving things for everybody. So when Trump runs around and talks about Cruz as a liar, he's not a liar, and he's not a nasty guy. He's not. And this thing with Ben Carson, I've got so much pique about that, P-I-Q-U-E, over the childish way this is being dealt with by everybody. And, of course, right in the middle of it, you have CNN, which did air a tweet from one of their reporters that Carson was leaving the race to go home to Florida and so forth. And Rubio did exactly what Cruz did, but nobody is lumping Rubio in with this supposed attempt to sabotage poor Ben Carson and his votes and his voters. But this liar thing has stuck for some reason. And it flies in the face for me because Ted Cruz is, at least with this current crop of people, is the epitome of integrity. And so the idea that he's your average, ordinary political huckster and liar really does not compute with me. But that's not the point. That's just another observation. As I was watching Cruz's acceptance speech last night, as I say, it's nothing different. It's just something clicked last night. I remembered while watching it last night what Cruz's strategy is and what it was prior to the campaign even beginning, and that means prior to Trump getting in. See, I got the clock. Okay, look, I can't finish this before I have to take the break, so I'm going to take the break, and I'll do the whole thing in its entirety when we get back. Robert Costa at the Washington Post and others are reporting now that Ben Carson's told his supporters he does not see a path forward and will not attend the Republican debate in Detroit tomorrow night. That means it'll be Cruz, Rubio, Trump, and Kasich. So essentially, Ben Carson not appearing at the debate tomorrow night, essentially getting out of the race. I wouldn't be surprised if Donald Trump asks for a moment of silence in the debate tomorrow night for Ben Carson and the votes Ted Cruz stole from him. Wouldn't surprise me at all if Cruz asked, if Trump asked for a moment of silence to blame Cruz for the fact that this nice guy, Ben Carson, he didn't do anything to anybody. He had to get out of the race because Ted Cruz played a dirty trick on him in Iowa and stole his votes. Don't be surprised. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised at all. Now, Ted Cruz's strategy was very simple. He looked at the 2012 returns and saw 4 to 5 million Republicans didn't vote. The assumption that they were movement conservatives, unhappy with Romney, perhaps many of them evangelicals. Cruz believes that his strategy was that if he could get all 4 to 5 million of those with the others that voted for Romney, that he could beat Hillary or anybody else. So I think the Cruz strategy has been to speak in language that appeals to movement conservatives and really, really committed ideological conservatives, using their terms, using their language, voicing their objectives. It's not just saying he's going to repeal Obamacare, but the way he talks about doing it, it's got a direct appeal. It's as though Cruz's strategy is based and rooted in a belief that if he can attract every conservative Republican and get them to vote, that will be enough. And I think that has limited his appeal. He clearly can appeal to a much broader base of voters than just movement conservatives. There's nothing wrong with trying to get them. But his acceptance last night was pretty, not word for word, but in the key issues that he was mentioning, that we need repealing Obamacare, the Supreme Court nominations, all of it, it's language that is a second language to conservatives, but could be a foreign language that's somewhat scary to people who are not movement conservatives. Anyway, hang on. Now, let me be helpful to some of you people. Whatever you're doing out there, do not retweet the Ben Carson statement as reported by Robert Costa. Do not retweet. Otherwise, you will be accused of sabotaging the Carson campaign. I'm just trying to be helpful. This is what happened to Ted Cruz. CNN runs a story that Carson's leaving the campaign and returning to Florida. Cruz goes out and tweets it, and tells voters, looks like Carson's leaving. You might want to vote for us in the caucus. And we all know what happened after that. So I'm just suggesting to you, do not retweet any of this. Do not tweet it out there. Otherwise, you, a common, ordinary, invisible, everyday American citizen, could be accused of sabotaging the Carson campaign. But wait, Rush, but wait. He says he's leaving the campaign. I know. But if you retweet it, see, that's the point. He didn't say he's leaving. There's no path forward. He just said he's not going to the debate. Here's the statement. I have it here, my formerly nicotine sting fingers. I've decided not to attend the Fox News Republican presidential debate tomorrow night in Detroit, even though I will be in my hometown of Detroit on Thursday. I have decided not to attend the Fox News Republican presidential debate tomorrow night in Detroit, even though I will not be in my hometown of Detroit Thursday. I do remain deeply committed to my home nation, America. I don't see a political path forward in light of last evening's Super Tuesday primary results. However, the grassroots movement on behalf of we the people will continue. Along with millions of patriots who have supported my campaign for president, I remain committed to saving America for future generations. We must not depart from our goals to restore what God and our founders intended for this exceptional nation. I appreciate the support, financial and otherwise, from all corners of America. Gratefully, my campaign decisions are not constrained by finances, rather by what is in the best interests of the American people. So, you're right, Snerdley. It doesn't say he's leaving the campaign. Just there's no political path forward. He's not going to the debate. Maybe he's trying to suck Cruz into doing it all over again here. Here's Gregory in Livermore, California. Hey, Gregory, I'm glad you waited. It's great to have you with us on the program. Hello.
Yes, good afternoon, Rush. It's great to be on the program. So let me tell you my thoughts over the last few weeks.
Right.
I'm a lifelong conservative activist. Oppose Hillary ideologically, and given who she is, oppose her viscerally. But over the last week, I came to the conclusion a little over a week ago that if it comes to a choice between her and Trump, she is the lesser of two evils for the country and for the conservative movement. Let me explain basic foundation for that thought. Holding a presidency for the party has risks to begin with. Cataclysmic things can happen. Ask George W. Bush. The mortgage crisis happened on his watch. We know that at some point the debt bubble will burst. We don't know when. So when you take a risk by putting your guy in the Oval Office, you need upside. You need hope that real things will be done to help this country. With Walker, Jindal, Cruz, Rubio, there would be real upside. There would be real hope for real change. With Trump, there is zero chance of that. So we take the downside risk with no hope of upside, and for me, that's not good enough. I will definitely stay out of this race. Can't force myself to vote for Hillary, but for the first time in my life, will stay out of this race. Majority of my friends who were activists from our college days, took our lumps as conservative activists, overwhelming majority of them have come to the same conclusion. Maybe in little different paths and little different language, but essentially the same conclusion. So that's where I stand.
Can you detail for me your thinking on Trump being an abject total failure in the scenario that you...
Well, to achieve things, you actually have to believe in some things. Name one conservative aspect of public policy that he actually internalizes, that he actually believes to be true. He doesn't believe in lower regulation, doesn't believe in lower taxes. He doesn't believe in judicial restraint.
Wait just a second. He did last night in his press conference tout his tax plan and claimed that no less than Larry Kudlow, who is a Reagan conservative, has praised it to the hilt.
Yes, but I know that. But he also he takes positions. This is Trump yesterday. The Trump who was yelling how he's going to raise the taxes on hedge funds is also the same Donald Trump. So, I mean, if you put out 5 positions on every issue, anybody is bound to find something they like because, obviously you say 5 different things, one of those things is going to be to somebody's liking. But he never, I mean, come on, he woke up at the age of nearly 70 and became a Reagan conservative. It doesn't happen that way. He never displayed any of those kinds of beliefs earlier in life. I mean, if any, I mean, he's not a radical leftist, but he's your basic New York liberal. I mean, he has been all that, and to expect that all of a sudden he'll become a Reagan once he is in the White House.
Let me play devil's advocate with you here.
Yeah.
I'm not going to argue with you about conservative bona fides. Although Trump last night was also, and he's not even claimed that he's very conservative on immigration, he's very conservative on trade, he's very conservative on America winning. Well,
actually, on trade, it's his definition of conservative. His definition of conservatism on trade is protectionism. This is actually, okay, if I can expound on that point because it's important.
Well, feel free to expound on the point, yes.
Yes, he's selling, I mean, he's a con man. What he's selling, one of the big reasons people are for him is because he says, you know what, I know you're hurting on jobs. High-wage manufacturing jobs are all in China and Mexico. I'm going to fix it. They're going to be back here. It's crock on 2 points. Once the manufacturing jobs in China and Mexico are not high-paying jobs. They pay about as much as fast food workers in America, and they're not coming back here. And secondly, the jobs are not increasing anywhere, including China and Mexico. Jobs are being taken over, both manufacturing and service jobs are being taken over by automation. And Trump's Trump's claim that he's going to create monstrous amounts of jobs by his protectionist policy.
Okay, let's leave ideology out for a second. Let's get to his specific claim that he is going to revitalize this country and make it great again. Now, before you answer, the reason that's resonating is because the people who support him and a lot of others think that the people that run this country, the special people, have ruined it. They have taken a college education and taken it in from a step up to a millstone around people's necks. They have destroyed the credit markets. They have destroyed the housing market. They have destroyed everything they're touching. They're doing fine. Trump comes along, and basically the message he's saying, he's not extolling a conservative message. He says, I'm going to fix this. I'm going to put it back to where you and I are in charge of what happens in this country. The greatness of this country is going to be defined by how good it is for us. That's what people are reacting to. They're not reacting to him because he's conservative.
Yes, Rush, but, that saying, will make America great again, is a slogan, just like hope and change. What is different?
Yeah, but it's much more specific than hope and change.
I don't find specific. So how exactly is he going to create those jobs?
Well, hope and change, you fill in the blanks. Make America great, that's pretty simple to understand.
No, not really. I don't know what great means in his language, because it could be, things are going to be great. I'm going to fix it. Fix what? I already told you why.
The way people are interpreting it, we're going to become the superpower again that dominates the world with our goodness.
In what way? In what way is that going to happen? And how is that any more specific?
Because he's going to stop the people who are ruining the country from doing what they're doing.
And what are they doing? What are those people doing, Rush? How is he going to stop them, and what are they doing? He's been part of, and again, it's like with, you keep saying that, Democrats pretend that, they were in Guam all these years or something, that they're not controlling the White House. He's been part of this establishment for decades. He's a crony capitalist. He's been friends with these people for years. All of a sudden, he's going to, put them all under house arrest. He doesn't know.
Okay, so then would you believe if somebody said that he actually may be their agent?
No, I don't believe that he's their agent. I don't go into conspiracies. Agent means that it's a plot. Agent means that there is a meeting somewhere where they say, you go out and you pretend that you're against us, and then we'll divide the goodies. There was never any such meeting. What I'm saying is that he doesn't know any life other than crony capitalism. How is he going to fight something which he internalizes completely? He doesn't know.
The only thing that I'm telling you, and I'm playing devil's advocate with you, the only thing I'm telling you is that the people supporting him, I'm getting blue in the face trying to explain why this is happening. I'm sure you've heard me go through all of this, and I don't have the minutes here to do it again. But I can explain for every one of these objections you raise. I can give you a substantive reason why people think that he's going to, why they're investing in him. Now, whether they're right or wrong, time will tell. But they have had it with the people running the show now. They've had it for the last 30, 40 years. They've had it with being aced out. They've had it with being sneered at. They've had it with being mocked and laughed at and not listened to. They've had it with being asked for money to promote causes, and the causes never get promoted. To grant you something, he said something last night that cannot happen, folks. And I've got to tell you, he said he's going to make Apple bring this iPhone manufacturing back to the United States. There's no reason Apple can't make folks, that will not happen. It can't happen. We don't have the setup for it. The factories that make iPhones in China employ 500,000 people. They make 200 and some odd, 30, 40 million iPhones a year. We don't have factories that big. We don't have that many people that would do those jobs. But even if we did, the iPhone that you buy today for $199 on contract, sign your 2-year deal with your carrier, would cost $2,500 if manufactured in America. That's just not that's not something that could be changed overnight and still have the product be affordable. It's not a criticism of America. It's just the way things are. Just 500,000 people in one factory. The factories have hospitals. The factories are entire cities, the little cities. And there are multiple of these factories. They don't make just iPhones. They make everything Apple makes. And they make everything Samsung makes. And they make everything. And all of the suppliers are just down the street. So that's a slogan, but that isn't going to happen. And to that extent, I don't know how many of his supporters actually think that specific kind of thing is going to happen. This is what we don't know. But anyway, Gregory, I appreciate the call. Thanks for your patience here and explaining yourself as well as you did. We'll take a break and be back after this. Don't go. Say, folks, there's another angle to this ongoing news story between Apple and the FBI over security. And that's something I sadly intended to get to today but didn't. But Apple won that yesterday, the hearing that they had with the congressional hearing with Bruce Sewell, who is their corporate counsel, the FBI. Apple won that on 7-5 points-wise. They may have won the slam dunk portion of it. This all involves the All Writs Act. And I'll save it, give you details tomorrow, because what this is really about is the encryption on your phone. That's what they want. It's not about breaking into this phone. This is just designed to get everybody thinking that we got to do anything we can to get what's on a terrorist phone. But what the FBI wants, the government wants, is to be able to decrypt the data on a phone. The software that Apple wrote and installed in certain phones sold, in this case to the county of San Bernardino, includes state-of-the-art protocols that protect the content of the phone on much of the software, like iMessages, the texting program. Encryption is the process where really smart computer programmers write software that protects the content that's in computer files so that you need the key, the combination to the lock, to be able to decrypt and be able to read it. Yeah, I saw that. George Stephanopoulos was interviewing Cruz. See this? And Cruz said, well, Hillary Clinton's your former boss, George. That kind of stuff is just great. Break the code. Head on in there. See you tomorrow here, folks. Adios.